one of the things that is often practiced in Lozar. So we had just done a day retreat the 1st of January, and one of the things we talked about was, even though we can't actually practice the New Year, in a traditional sense, part of the theme was what can we learn from the New Year, from Lozar. One of the things that is done, is to cultivate a sense of protection. So it's kind of relinquishing the sort of any of the negative energies that either are still lingering from the last year or that may still be present in our space. When I practice with wrathful energy, with Mahakala, by the way, whom I met in the mountains, as I mentioned earlier, and for me, Mahakala, this wrathful deity, this presence of fierce compassion, was really embodied by the sacred mountain where this retreat center is located in upstate New York. I've been there since, but that first time that I was there for the weekend, it was pretty powerful. And it was then I started practicing Mahakala, who is a Dharma protector, as I mentioned. I'm going to show you his image here, and move you here to this fearsome looking being. I could imagine that people in other traditions might see this and think that this is a devil or some kind of demon. But in fact, yes, he is scary, he is frightening, he's meant to be. And part of this is because, and I've actually experienced this in meditation practice, whenever there is some kind of a rising of some kind of energy, whether it's internal or something that kind of moves into my space that doesn't belong to me, whatever that form that might be in, that arising, this protective presence of Mahakala is really powerful. In other words, nothing messes with Mahakala or the other forms of these wrathful deities. And there are others, such as Vajrakilaya, Black Tara, who we often don't talk about. But Mahakala, for some reason, and there are various forms of Mahakala as well, for me has been really instrumental. And when I chant the mantra here, Om Mahakala Hum Pe, I usually do it with a drum, and I purify the space with some sage and incense. And what I'm doing when I chant this is, first of all, I begin by setting my intention. And Mahakala's intention is to protect those whose compassion and whose insight is being threatened by negativity, by other people or by other beings, or by one's own mind. So part of this quote unquote protection is really drawing on the fierceness of our devotion, the fierceness, the ferocity, if you will, of pristine, clear, the power of compassion in its utmost energetic form. So the motivation is wholesome. The expression is true well-being and auspiciousness on the path. It is devotion to clarity, to cultivating discernment, and to then send out our wish to protect others who are on the path, others who practice. So, for example, I will usually begin by chanting this and banging my drum and sort of create a sense of protectiveness and invoke this energy of Mahakala to protect the mind from impurities or other things that get in there. If your bank is calling you or your mechanic is about to tell you that it's going to be a $4,000 repair job, you can actually facilitate the space of your practice by asking for some kind of bubble, if you will. So your practice can be the most auspicious. The world will wait for us when we're done, but we will enter into it differently. And then, so it's not just protecting mind and space, but then it's protecting others, either in our Sangha or those who practice with us. Maybe it's all practitioners, so usually my circles will widen as I chant and will include all Dharma practitioners, all lineages, all beings. In fact, it goes out to include all people who practice any form of spirituality that comes from a place of wholesomeness and aspiration for the easing of suffering and for wisdom and for enlightenment. And then it just radiates out. So this is one way that you can practice Mahakala. And here's the relevance to our theme tonight, to practice invoking Mahakala to protect our environment, to have something that we can also practice together. This is quite powerful. And the root, the Mahabindu, the seed syllable here is this word pay. Pay is the power that arises in this chant. So Om Mahakala Hum Pay. Om, we open to the auspiciousness of sort of the macrocosm, the energy, the vitality of the Buddha field. Mahakala, we are invoking not just sort of this deity in a literal sense, but the power of this being that we all carry. And then Hum is the seed syllable for our aspiration, compassion. Hum is the heart syllable for the heart, for compassion. And Pei is the strength, is the power. And often you will chant Pei loudly. Hum Pei, you'll give it a strength. This is sort of like an injection. Yeah, Marie, that's right. I could tell. Yes, there you go. Now, again, the energy is seen to be very powerful. In fact, there is a song that I was working on for a while for Mahakala, the Mahakala chant for our band Satigata. And I remember asking Willa, telling her that I was a little uncomfortable putting this out there in a song form for anybody just to kind of play with and listen to. And you know, she didn't really have an answer about whether or not it's a good idea. And I decided not to pursue that, not to make a Satigata song about this. I feel like I would need a little more of an empowerment, and it's good to keep this in the context of right motivation. So, and I'm telling you this largely because of the energy that it can be awakened within this. And here's another key before we begin practicing this, is the difference between the rawness of our aspiration and the narrative behind what it is that needs protection. Does that make sense? That this isn't something we chant out of fear. This isn't something that we chant because we're angry, and that the narrative is born of anger, but it's born out of caring. It's born out of pristine sort of clarity, truth to power, that basically our discernment is so clear that nothing can kind of get in it. It's not too different than Manjushri having a flaming sword. Manjushri, the bodhisattva of great wisdom, whose sword basically is cutting off the roots of the poisons, cutting off the roots of the unwholesome acts. So anyway, so I invite you, and you don't have to chant this, but I invite you to chant it with me on behalf of our earth, on behalf of our environment. And here, again, it's not about sinking into a reactive habit body about what's going on in there, but really relinquishing the narratives so that there is more energy and more focus directed to the strength of what is possible with compassion. Does that make sense? That we're really directing an aspiration together, out of love, out of compassion, truth to power, that might be another way to say this. So for activists, this can be a powerful image as long as they have the right bodhicitta motivation and have some practice behind them. And that's something that hasn't been explored to my knowledge, but that could be somehow. And that really is the spirit of it. Yeah, it's transparency, truth. Yeah,
There's a radicalness to it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, fierce compassion is not something we often are taught when we're younger. Many people will relate to compassion as something that makes you vulnerable and soft, and well, maybe it does, but it's also has a power to it. It has a strength. It has a force to it. Yeah, because it's we're not getting we're not getting lost in the judgment, let's say, of the people who actively don't care about the environment or are even worse, doing things to make it worse. Instead of judging them as bad, wrong, we're sending this energy that says this doesn't work. But we're not actually robbing them of dignity as a human being either. But we're pointing out the truth of the harm. So whether it's environmentalism or some other kind of activism, this is an important lesson. How to be useful, how to be skillful, because it begins with, what is our frame here? What are we really contributing here? The rawness of anger is generative, but the narrative is not always so generative. The hatred, the destruction, that is not fierce compassion. But the aspiration, the truth, the pristine clarity that comes when you're mad or you're angry, that's what we're harnessing. Yeah. A strength on the path, a strength in your own capacity, a sense of confidence. It's a wonderful practice to do against the fifth of the five hindrances, which is doubt. It's really trying to solidify a sense of clarity and pristine and strength and confidence. And again, it comes from that basic motivation of love, of bodhicitta. Without that, you can be in deep water, you can be even in harmful water in some way. This is why this kind of chant and practice are seen to be, it's important to sort of hold, like in our context, really holding that deepest wish for well-being, and this is why I said earlier, not get sort of hijacked by the narrative around it, because then that can become toxic to us. The power of Mahakala, if you will, really is drawn from that aspiration of compassion, of fierce compassion. So we want to really remember that if I do this for the earth, I'm doing it really to protect it because I care, and that there's strength and there's power in that caring. There's protection in it. Yeah.